Okay. And we're live. What's up, dude? What's cracking? What's cracking? All right, let's see if anybody... Dude, it's a Saturday, so I wonder how this is going to go. What do you think is going to happen? Oh, I didn't even post that we're going live yet. There we go. Yeah. All right, what's up, everybody? We are back on live. Are you on the live? Okay, cool. We are back on live today. Mick and I are going to talk over some stuff about POTS syndrome. Who knew? Who knew that we would talk about POTS? It's a Saturday. Hopefully people show up. We'll see what goes down. I'm eating a little bit. I think this is going to be a weekly segment. Hopefully it is, because last time went so well. Yeah, I think it'll be good. All right, Mick, why don't you... Actually, you know what? Let me address a couple things before we jump into it. Jazand, what's cracking? What's up, dude? Hopefully everything is good by you. I'm going to address a couple things. The last stream that I had, I spent way too much time with a hater. I spent way too much time on a hater. So today, I'm not going to do that. If there are any... if there's any bullshit going on in the chat, I'm just going to block today. How about that? Because I comment back on a lot of hater stuff on my channel, like comments and whatever. And always what I say is, don't come here with the negativity. Don't fearmonger. And I will be completely honest and take ownership here. I have fallen into that little trap of allowing the hatefulness or the negativity and stuff like that go down, and I have partaken in it, maybe not in the same way that I don't like on the channel, as far as like, you know, talking about symptoms and all that stuff, but I've definitely partaken and not been the bigger person. So today we are going to fix that. I'm taking accountability. So anyway, I have a hard time with it, man. I'm a man with a bunch of testosterone, you know, so I got some balls that like to hang. So anyway, we're going to talk about some stuff here. Jazan, I know that you wanted Mick to come with some strategies for the ways that he handles POTS syndrome and whatever. So maybe we'll get into that when we get into more of the Q&A portion of this. I think that we should do kind of a Q&A portion at some point, Mick, if you're down for it. Yeah. And also, what's it called? Jazan says, nice. Also, conversations between people in the chat don't need to be read necessary. Yeah, that's true. We don't need to read everything. I think when we... Yeah. Yeah, sure. I'm down for that. Am I like cut off? What if I move here? Is it better? What? Okay. We're going to go like this. Oh, dude, it's because I cropped it weird. Okay. Anyway. We're both in frame. Okay, cool. Jazan, you're going to be the can I assign people as what's it called? Moderators on YouTube? Is that a thing? I don't know how I do it either. All right. So anyway, you guys, we are going live, and I'm going to let Mick basically take the wheel on this one, because I think that he is a little like we just talked about before we got on live, that he's a little bit more, I think, relatable, because I was diagnosed with POTS years ago, like 5-ish years ago. So I think that he is more on the side of like, how do you say? He's less far removed from this than I am. I'm way more far removed from POTS syndrome than he is. So I think sometimes I can come off as a little bit harsh-ish, if that's what you want to call it. And I have a little bit less sympathy. And Mick is kind of like hard in the same way that I am, emotionally and mentally and stuff, like mental strength. And, you know, he kind of views a lot of things the same way that I do. But I think he has a better time connecting. So that's why I think this is a really good partnership, because you're going to get some of the big brother stuff from me, but then you're also going to get some of the reasonable human stuff from Mick. Is that fair to say? Right. Mm-hmm. Mick, they're saying they can't hear you. I can hear you. Jazan, can you hear Mick right now? That's what I'm looking for. Give me a second. Ah, got it. Hold on. Maybe I didn't. Yeah. All right, talk real quick.
Testing 1, 2.
Jazan, do you got him? All right, cool. That was my bad, guys. Sorry.
All right, what were we saying?
Let me make sure. All right, cool. All right, cool. I don't know what I was saying, to be honest with you. I don't know. I've spent all morning setting up my new like office space. I have a 10 by 8 like big banner coming here.
Nice.
Set up this stand-up desk, set up my new monitor arm, everything. So now I've got a little bit better workflow. But anyway, dude, yeah, I'm gonna let you take the wheel here. You start off. I know you wanted to talk about some emotional aspects of POTS, so I think that that's a really good idea. And then, yeah, I'll chime in with you. You ask me questions if you have any questions or concerns. But I think that this is going to be more of a platform for people. So I think a commonality between you and other people is that, you know, I didn't have a coach in the beginning, like in terms of a POTS coach, somebody that went through POTS. I had a lifting coach and stuff like that. But I think the reason why you can connect so much, and maybe, I don't know, this might help my business, it might not, I don't really care, this is fun, right? But one thing that I think a lot of people like cannot relate to is the fact that you're 3 months out of it, you're feeling better, you're back to work and stuff, and it almost seems impossible, right? Like so many people have so many questions about the process and getting better, and is it even possible? Like last night I responded to comments about like there's no hope for people with POTS, or there's no resources for people with POTS and things of that nature. So I'm gonna let you take the wheel. You're literally so close to when you had POTS, like initially. You're 3 months out. So you take the wheel. Let's go for it.
Yeah, so I think I remember we were talking about the coach aspect. So real quick, just to touch on that, like the coach aspect for me is I'm the person going through it, but I don't want a coach that's going to waste their breath on all the emotional part that comes into it. Cause there's a lot. Like when you first start out, for me, it feels like my central nervous system is just exhausted, overloaded, always firing, never shuts off. And that part is a tough part in having this condition. So when you first start out, it's rough. Like, and it's completely normal to be on guard with your doctors and your coach or your trainers, or, you know, your food. If you have a person for food, you know, what's that called? The nutritionist. Like you're going to be skeptical of every part of this, because I've been dealing with it for 3 years of really bad symptoms. But before that, I can show you a lifetime of symptoms and issues that I just wasn't even aware of.
Right.
So, and I think a lot of us share a common background. I've got PTSD, I've got ADHD, I've been through therapists and doctors, and, you know, so it's a common theme that we all have, which would coincide for me of the central nervous system having an issue. So when I get into recovery and when I talk to Justin, you know, I verified like, yeah, this is possible to recover in certain cases. Like this is managing POTS. This is what they talk about when they say I've recovered from POTS, or, you know, I know somebody that's recovered from POTS. This is what they talk about. They talk about your daily routine and things that you do, regardless of whether you're once or anything like that. Like a need is to have, you know, a bunch of salt during the day. You're going to have a number that you're going to have to hit consistently every day. That's a need. A little Debbie, you know, dessert cake is a want.
Yeah.
So if that dessert cake is, if the sugar in it affects me, then it's one little small piece of the pie that gets added to the table. And then eventually, after you get enough of those pieces of the pie and they make a whole pie, that's when you get a symptom.
Right.
So depending on what you intake or do, you get a different symptom. And when we recovered about after 3 months. By recovery, I mean I was no longer on the couch. I was no longer limited by life. I could take a hot shower. I could go do physical things. I could live an actual life without being limited by my concerns with having POTS. So is it too hot outside? What's going to be there? Do I have my water? Do I need this? And you got to remember, every situation is different for every single POTS patient.
100%.
None of us are going to be treated the same. There'll be certain commonalities that we'll have in stuff, but outside of that, it's not going to be the same. So everybody talks a lot about being able to do this. And one aspect I thought of last night was the emotional part of it, because essentially what Justin did is we worked together for about 3 months, and then about 3 months, I did everything to the T every single day, from getting enough sleep, getting enough hydration, figuring out how much sodium I need, when to add more potassium, what supplements or medicines may or may not help. Like, I went through this rigorous 3 months of doing nothing but talking to my doctor, working with my coach, leveling out my food. Like, what I was eating was not always the most awesome thing to eat, but I wasn't having these symptoms. So I still had that fear that I was going to get a symptom. And it was a symptom of like not being able to swallow, or not being able to, being really short of breath, stuff like that, stuff that's terrifying to go through.
Mm-hmm.
So it was easy at first to just sit there and knock everything out. And then I didn't have the symptoms. After about 3 months, it was having my first coffee that I realized,
Ooh, boy,
I'm not as worried. And that coffee was amazing. It was.
That first sip of coffee after not having a cup of coffee. Oh
Dude.
My gosh, dude. I never gave up coffee due to POTS, but I've given it up a bunch of times just for the sake of like resensitizing my adenosine receptors. And yeah, dude, that first sip when you get back to it is like, oh my, like you just died and went to heaven.
Dude, when you eat clean and then you go and eat something that's not as clean, it's just, it like melts in your mouth.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. So one thing that I want to touch on real quick is that Mick was pretty stringent on his diet, his supplementation. Like, it took a little bit for us to figure things out, but then you did things you were consistently doing all of the right things, because there's going to be somebody that pops in and is like, that's not right, whatever, making comments. You did all of the right things for a good like 4 weeks, maybe 5 weeks, right? And then you started to reintroduce stuff like gluten-free pizza on the weekend or whatever when you were feeling less symptomatic. I remember you talking about that. And so something that I want to make very clear is everybody thinks that you have to take this hardcore approach. Maybe that's part of like my problem, right? Is like making it seem super hardcore. But the thing is like in healthy people, they always say the best diet is the one that you can stick to. The best exercise program is the one that you can stick to, right? But on average, you have to at least do the program and do the diet fully for a little bit and then make tweaks and changes when you're able to. So Mick was feeling like basically unsymptomatic for the most part, right? And then he's like, okay, I'm going to try a gluten-free pizza. I'm going to try drinking a coffee and see what happens. And lo and behold, his body was able to tolerate it pretty well. So it's not that you want to, like, it's that you have to be pretty hardcore in the beginning. You're chronically ill. You're dealing with something that is chronic. It's an illness, right? So you have to be pretty stringent and hardcore in the beginning. But as time goes on and you're feeling less and less symptomatic, there is a point where you're able to make those choices and be like, okay, I'm going to try doing this and see how it affects me today. And if it affects me a little bit, then I won't do it again. But there is a point in time where you have to start bringing things back into your life, back into your diet, because you're alive, you're on Earth. Like, it's for one life that you're gonna live. You know what I mean? So you might as well at least try, and then you get to start experimenting and see what does and doesn't agree with you. But it's not a forever thing where you have to be super strict.
Yeah, that's basically it. Like, you know, I'm a little different.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I'm a little different is because I think I value my opinions and
you should.
my ideas. So at the end of the day, I know that everything that we started doing to the T,
Mm-hmm.
I did that because I was terrified. Like, I needed this stuff to change. I was scared to death of the symptoms.
Yeah.
And the not swallowing is a terrifying symptom to have.
It's a scary feeling.
Being shortness of breath over anything is terrifying to have. So in the beginning, I was scared to death. And it was easy to do that because we're human. It takes a lot for us to sometimes see and realize what we need to do. And then we stay human because we'll adjust it and fix it. And then we'll realize we get a little bit of cheese. So then we take a little bit of cheese. And then before you know it, we got the whole block.
Yeah.
And what Justin preaches a lot on is the discipline and the consistency and being patient. And that was something that was hard for me to come over, was being patient.
Mm-hmm.
But in the end, that's what it took. So when you make your adjustments and stuff, they're going to be slow. But your discipline and your motivation through that is what's the most important. Now, that's what we wanted to talk about today, essentially, was the emotional states that you go through along with still progressing. So at the end of the day, when he talks about stuff, it's like, fucking get over it and shit. Honestly, that's what the baseline fix is. That there's no easy way through this. The baseline fix for everything is to accept the fact, okay, I have POTS. I feel this way now. And when you go through it, it's mentally exhausting to go through this. And I understand the mental aspect of this and the horrible way you feel, the fatigue, the stress, the depression, the anxiety, the brain fog, the loss of hope of, is this ever going to be fixed? Is this really possible? The constant intrusion of all that stuff. Here's what I found out. I was going through therapy and I'm smart. I'm like, beforehand, I had a lot of mental strength. But the one thing I couldn't grasp was, why can't I just put these certain things into place mentally and then overcome this like I have before? Mm-hmm. Like, what is the deal? POTS syndrome. That's the deal. But here's the kicker about recovering and getting better. There are certain things that are necessities. These necessities you cannot go without, period. And it's going to sound crazy what they are, because to me, if you would have told me that walking every day was a necessity, I would have told you were nuts. I was like, what's the big deal? But when you think about it, break it down to just and I think that's where my value is in this, is I can see this from just a normal, regular stance without getting too technical into it. So I can use these dumbed down words that I use that aren't sometimes words to explain everything through it. So if you don't have enough sodium, or if you don't have enough hydration, or if you're not daily doing something to move and circulate blood around your body, you are causing yourself problems from the start. Now, that's the kicker. You have to have these certain things in place, this block of core things that come with your POTS that you have to do daily. Mm-hmm. Outside of that, everything else is an added success. That's one symptom you're not going to have. That's one situation you're not going to have issues in. And you all know what I'm talking about, where you just sit there and you temperature change for no reason.
Yeah.
Or you go into a hot shower and you can't breathe.
Yep.
Or you're in the store and you feel embarrassed because you're laying down on the ground with your legs up against the wall. Like, try being on a job site. I've never in my life laid down on a job site.
Yeah.
with my legs up, and everybody sees I'm pale, trying to explain to these people what's happening, but we all go through the same shit.
Mm-hmm.
When I first had it and I was at work, people literally said that sounds like some made up shit. And I'm
It
on a
does
job
sound made
site.
up.
Like everybody around me, whether they're sick, not sick, missing an arm, doesn't matter. They go to work and then they still work at their pace. So you don't get a lot of excuses on a job site.
Mm-mm.
And I went in with paperwork saying, hey, this is what it is. And at the end of the day, you're not going to have a lot of people around you that are really supportive.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to have a massive amount of people around you that have no idea, can't relate, and won't give you any sympathy or room with it. You just got to accept this. This is the hard part. This is the mentally hard part, is the first part, is being alone. Because I would go to the ER and nobody would be there.
We talked about that. Like, I don't know if you care about me bringing up like stuff, personal stuff, but
yeah,
we had talked about that in the beginning, I think like probably 4 or 5 weeks in. And I had told you like, hey man, people aren't really going to have sympathy for you and you can't really expect them to, because it's crazy. It does, like you're saying, right? I don't remember the words that I used, but to use your words right now, it sounds made up. It does sound made up. And just because it sounds that way doesn't mean that it is, right? And just because people can't relate to it doesn't mean that they're bad people, and just because like people don't understand, they don't have empathy for you, sympathy for you, it also doesn't mean they're bad people. They literally don't have the experience. So they can't empathize with you. So I think I told you that, where I was like, I think I said, you'd rather be in no company than bad company, because if it's not adding value to your life, then you need to get rid of it right now, because right now what you're going through is hard, it's rough, and you got to figure it out, right? And then I believe that, well, you can elaborate further if you want on how that manifested or whatever. But real quick, I want to touch real quick on your point of getting steps in and how it's basically like a non-negotiable, right? Like you need to be getting steps in. So I had this comment yesterday that came through on my video. I think it's 3 tips for managing pots, something like that. You guys can look at it. And I reviewed the video after this person left a comment because I wanted to make sure that I wasn't like coming off a certain way, right? And so the person goes, overexertion causes post-exertional malice and can make people significantly worse, FYI. Also, many have connective tissue issues and weightlifting. CrossFit can cause injury and joint damage. And so I read that out loud, yeah. Right, exactly. And so I read that out loud actually in front of my PA girlfriend, right? My physician's assistant girlfriend. And she goes, for lack of better, terms, she said, is this person stupid? And I was like, right, because sitting around doing nothing does the exact same thing. It results literally in the exact same problem. Actually, worse. It's worse.
it does.
Sitting around doing nothing is actually all the evidence, for all you evidence-based people, the people that like science or whatever, being immobile and being sedentary is worse on your connective tissue and joints than any sort of, possible injury from exercise will ever be. The benefit though outweighs the negative with the exercise. So like if you do get the post-exertional malice, okay, you deal with that for a couple weeks or whatever. But the point is that you're saying like there's some non-negotiables, right? And steps is one of the non-negotiables. I don't think.
Hang on.
Yeah, go.
So like, and that's the thing I don't think people understand when you talk and stuff, is they see you doing it, but they don't understand like what that process is like. So I'll give you a real quick run through. Prior to this, I had a 580 deadlift. I would run flights of stairs with weighted vest. I did a lot of stuff, so I was really conditioned, really able.
Yeah.
Over some time, I deconditioned down from getting too busy at work, having to concentrate on other stuff, letting that stuff go to the side. Along with that time frame comes not eating the best food. Okay, so I've put in a few different factors on how I deconditioned down, and it took some time. That time frame was also based off of how well I was conditioned. Okay, so keep these things in mind when we talk about this.
Yep.
Now, when I started with Justin, I was walking and maybe doing rows. He wanted to see if my body could handle rows. The whole way process
rowing,
through that,
like the rowing machine.
yeah, the process through those 3 months that was not an immediate start of lifting. And this was me and him, me being aggravated I couldn't lift, and him being like, just be patient, you got to trust the process. After I hit the 3 months and I started lifting, that's when I realized that when I have his program, my goal is my workout. My challenge is my workout. And my goal is to improve. Mm-hmm. So my challenge each time I go to the gym is to do that workout. I stick to the workout. Now, after enough time, and I know myself, there had been times where I pushed one day a little farther just to see what would happen. I noticed symptoms within the next 2 days. It seemed like it took me 1 or 2 days before my symptoms would start to react. Now, that's a timeline of the body being overloaded, central nervous system being overloaded, other things come into play. The body's got to take time to adjust, and then boom, here's your symptom. Those symptoms were minor. My foot hurt, my arm twitched, other things in the body. I had a little sensitivity in my back or my right side of my head, or it could be a symptom of short of breath. That's when I started to notice how to separate symptoms. But each part of this process was not geared towards over-exhausting the body to complete failure. You're talking like probably 60 to 80% working range that you're going to establish. And that working range is different for each person. Mm-hmm. One person could start off and be able to handle doing rows. Another person could start off and not be able to handle rows and have to start off at the recumbent bike or doing some type of walking that's going to take time to build up muscles. So you're not hitting an overexertion with his program and the way he does things. You're hitting that fine line of working range and pushing the boundaries on what the body can handle. But there's a very slow process to building within that first 3 months.
Yeah, I think that what the tough part is that people see the content and they see where I'm at, and they assume that that's like how I'm programming everyone to be. Like in this video, I'm literally working out twice a day, probably 2 to 3 hours each session. So like I'm training between 4 and I think it was like the top that I was training in that at that time, because I was trying to go pro in CrossFit, was about 5 hours was where I was like ending up most days. That's including like warm-ups, cool down, stuff like that. But I was working out like a very long time and a lot per day. And then I was doing all the recovery stuff. Now, look, you can watch the content and hear what I'm saying and not hear the message behind it, right? By watching what I'm doing. But you have to remember that I'm so far removed from it. I'm 5-6 years away from my diagnosis and the running out of the Anytime Fitness 4, 5, 12 times, whatever it was, thinking that I couldn't breathe, thinking I need to call an ambulance. I'm freaking 5 years away from that. The way that we actually like go about helping people and doing all this stuff is, I guess, post-exertional malaise would be a really good way to explain a lot of my clients who talk about crashes. That might actually be what they're talking about. So yeah. And so when I'm looking at this, right, like I'm like, you don't have post-exertional malaise. What you have is like you're overworked. Like you don't understand how to start and then end, right? So for a lot of people, when you're talking about making steps a non-negotiable, a lot of time, like you said, that's how we start, because you need to have some sort of non-negotiable movement throughout the day. So people are always like asking for like exercise advice. How do I start exercising? Is exercise really that important? Yeah, but you guys, you have to look at exercise not just one track minded. Exercise comes in so many different forms. Like I've had people start with doing lunges in their living room, like just lunges in their living room, air squats, assisted push-ups, crunches, planks, usually not crunches right away, but planks, things of that nature. Like you start slow and then you end like at the big stuff, right? Like I started training CrossFit about 3 years ago. Maybe I'm going on my 4th or whatever. So I was 2 to 3 years deep with POTS already. I had been pretty much fully recovered. And yeah, dude, like, yeah. So I think
this isn't a CrossFit program.
No, like 0%.
The coach, look, he does CrossFit, but I'm a power lifter. Mm-hmm. So like, and you got to think that it's like, because when I first started looking to talk to Justin, I was like, I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I'm a power lifter through and through. So I
You're
was
like,
like,
that's gay.
fucking CrossFit guy.
Yeah.
And then I thought about it, like,
Yeah.
what's important if you have POTS? Your blood volume,
Yep.
right? Your conditioning.
Mhm.
So now break it down to a level. You have two coaches to go to. Okay, one's a power lifter that has had POTS, and the other one's a CrossFit guy that had POTS. Like, do you not think that the CrossFit guy might have a better understanding about blood volume and exertion and all the important stuff you need with it? When I started this program, I did not start lifting weights. He did not let me touch a weight till like a month or two in, maybe. I don't remember, but
Yeah.
it was all
Yeah.
stuff based around air squats. And I'm like, yeah, I can do 10 air squats. What do you mean? Like,
Yeah.
and then I didn't get to jump the program every week and go, okay, I did 10 air squats. Can I do 10 more now and we'll do 20? I didn't get that because he was sitting there watching the weight that I lifted, how many times I lifted it, what my time frame was on that exercise through the app. You know, like there's a lot of factors in it. Then he's like, okay, look, I think he can probably handle this, but he's getting ready to go back to work. So let's do this for another week just to make sure that it's good to go. You're in there, and then we'll increase it, or then we'll change it.
We kept
But
your program basically the same for 2 weeks before you went back to work.
yeah, and in the end, like I didn't end up with a CrossFit program.
No.
I ended up in the stuff that I like to do. And that's the other part of it too, because he likes CrossFit. I like powerlifting. You know, so if you're a client that wants to do powerlifting or wants to hit heavy weight and stuff like that, then your program is probably going to go in that route at some point. He's not going to just be like, okay, you need to do CrossFit now because that's how it is and blah, blah, blah. It doesn't work that way.
No, but everyone also starts the same, right? Where
Right.
in the way that like it's very low intensity. We're starting with building an aerobic base. And then I
Right.
will do some like cross modality stuff, like some like when you get to a point that, you know, it shows that you show that you can handle it, then you do some sort of like what's it called? Monostructural work, which is like some sort of cardio, and then you do like a weight bearing or resistance exercise paired with that. For blood volume purposes, for hypertrophy purposes, there's there's a whole bunch of different reasons and ways that we could talk about it. But yeah.
And that's finding this box. You're going to start off in this box, and this box is going to tell you your parameters, things you can do, things that don't help, things that affect you in a negative way. Because there's certain exercises like a pull down, it pulls back on your rhomboid muscle back there. So if that's something at the start that you get a flare up from, it doesn't mean you keep doing it. It's adjusted. Right. And that's the goal, is we want to get as close to, you know, a flare up as we can, but no flare ups, no symptoms, no issues. And you have to build this muscle structure. So if you're somebody that is not conditioned at all, your length of time will maybe take a little bit longer. Yeah. But I promise, if you do the basic necessities of what you need and work from there, you are going to get better in some aspect, one or another. Like it may not completely cure you of POTS, and you're just, oh, I'm healthy and cured. I can go eat pizza all the time now and never intake salt and never drink water and I'm fine. It doesn't work that way. Yeah. This will happen until you're older. It's just you adjust your life to it, and it just depends on how you want to live as a person, you know? I don't want to suffer.
Yeah, which is kind of where I was going to go with the comment, right? Is that these things can cause connective tissue, you know, issues, and it can give people PM, and you can get injury and joint damage or whatever. And it's like, yeah, okay, I totally agree. All those things can happen. But again, all those things can happen from being sedentary too. So I guess pick your poison, right? One is guaranteed to help you in some sort of way. The other one is guaranteed to make you worse, no matter what, and you don't progress from it. So it's like, pick your poison, take your chance. What chance would you rather do? Would you rather live in fear and not do anything and just sulk all day? Or would you rather take a chance and try and make something happen, hopefully, right? I want to open up the chat real quick to anybody that has questions. You guys ask questions, because I think after Mick, after you touch your last point here, then let's move on to the emotional portion that you were talking about. But guys, make sure that you're asking questions in the chat. Like this chat, or like the live if you haven't liked it already. And go ahead. What were you going to say?
Well, I was gonna say all that ties into the emotional part of it too.
Mm-hmm.
That's what that's what holds people back from getting better is that you're already anxious, you're already depressed, you're already flatlined, you already got nothing left. So everybody wants to get better, but how do you move past that when you have all this emotional stuff that's driving it? That's what I mean. And
Yeah.
that's what limits all the emotional stuff with it is the little things you do every day. That walking is literally that important. Believe it or not, it walking every day or getting enough steps in is vital. It is vital.
Yeah, well, I mean, let's even like talk about the effects on like exercise and movement that on emotional states, right? Like it's proven. There was a study that came out of I think it was the United Kingdom that showed that exercise had a greater effect than SSRIs did on mood and depression and things of that nature, like
Yeah.
mental health, right? So like
That's
we can even talk about it in that type of aspect where not only does it have the obvious benefits, movement, steps and stuff for POTS, reconditioning and building muscle so that you have better blood volume and you have your body has a better ability to use the heart as a pump, things of that nature. But also it's going to get you out of your head a little bit, right? They say one of the best cures for overthinking is to make sure that you're busy, make sure that you don't have time, right? And depression, one of the things that like therapists talk about all the time is make sure you have routine. Routine is necessary for depression, things like that, right? So like making sure that you put in movement as a part of your day. I don't care what it is, guys. If you can only start off with like 30 minutes of stretching or in-home yoga with Adrian on YouTube or whatever it is, and you can only do 1,000 steps. I've made videos on this, 1,000 steps where you're walking back and forth from your refrigerator to your bed and you lay down or whatever, but you're counting the steps and you're progressing it throughout time. That's better than doing nothing. And it's really good for your emotional state. And the other thing here, right? The thing that I don't think is touched on at all is when you start stacking these little wins, right? You stack little wins. You did 1,000 steps today. That's freaking awesome. You couldn't even do 20 yesterday, but you did 1,000 today. Now you're building confidence. Now you're building confidence in yourself that you're able to do hard things. You can beat the state of mind that you've been in. And when you beat, like, that's the same reason why mostly I was doing ice baths for a long time, right? It was just to prove to myself that I could. It had nothing to do with like the physical benefits or anything like that. It's just like start out your day with a hard thing, and then you prove to yourself that you can do other hard things. The same thing with POTS. Do 1,000 steps, 1,500, 2,000, 2,500. Every single day, you're stacking these small wins. When you stick to your diet 100%, you stacked another small win. You're just proving to yourself that you can handle this, that you are in control.
yeah.
Somebody said, Hubley said, can you explain PEM? Can you explain it, Mick?
What do you mean PM?
Post-exertional malaise. Do you know what that is?
Yeah. So like that goes back to the good day I had at work, right? I felt great. I went and pulled in a bunch of wire. I climbed up into the ceiling. I finished out that day awesome. The next day, completely wrecked. So now why? Because my small twitch and my fast twitch fibers in my muscles and my muscles themselves weren't built up to be able to handle that load.
Mm-hmm.
So working back to that is handling that load. The workouts in the program is to avoid that post-exertional. You're not going to hit complete failure to a point where you're wrecking yourself for the next day. You're building up that post-exertional.
Yeah.
Bigger and bigger each time until you get to a point where the normal things in your daily life don't affect you. For me, that's swinging a hammer, pulling myself up into the ceiling, walking around 12,000 steps at work easy, day to day, going up flights of stairs in a commercial building where you're exposed to everything in your environment, loud noises, certain frequencies that can trigger that in POTS.
I just went to a concert last night, a live concert, and it hit me like boom, and I was like, whoa.
Dude, I couldn't imagine.
Keep going, sorry.
But I mean, that's what it is. So when you talk about real post-exertional, like when I worked out, I used to work out for 2 hours and stuff. That didn't mean that I was building the whole time.
Right.
It meant I was recovering the whole time. That doesn't mean that you're building the whole time.
Right.
When you go to, 80% of your working load, that's when you're going to build that.
Yeah.
Post-exertional means you have just went to the fullest extent to ruin yourself muscle-wise, and that the next day, instead of being sore for a day or two, you're going to be sore for a full week.
Yep.
When people start working out, they tend to do that. If they're working out on their own, they'll go wreck themselves, get so hurt and feel so crappy that they won't go back.
Yeah.
So it's the goal of the program isn't post-exertional. The goal of the program is building post-exertional farther and farther away so that your daily life doesn't affect you.
Let me explain that real quick, because I think that the question might be like, what is post-exertional malice? And this looks different for every single person. Like Mick is touching on, like you go to the gym and you wreck yourself, and that, you go with the goal of wrecking yourself, and then you're laid out for like a couple days. But basically, like, you can't recover from a bunch of activity or stimuli, right? That's what post-exertional malice is, and it can last for different periods of time. For different people, we can argue about why that is, or if it's real or true or whatever, blah, blah. Just consider it a crash, basically, is what it is, right? And so that looks different for everybody, and it's highly dependent on how functional you are as somebody with POTS. That's basically what the idea is. So, and then my theory on it is that you build your tolerance for things over time. You build your tolerance for stimuli over time. So exercise, one person might be able to do 10 sets of 10 back squats, but they have POTS, and anything past that they can't handle. One person might only be able to do air squats or whatever. The idea is to make sure that you stay within your threshold and slowly build it up. That's basically the idea, to stay away from a crash or post-exertional malice. And that PM can happen to more people than just POTS. I think that's another thing that people don't really understand, right? Is that you see these same characteristics in people that don't have POTS, that have just fried their central nervous system. So people that have, like, athletes especially. I've had a bunch of athletes that go through what we just call burnout. We just call it athletic burnout. And it manifests almost the same. Except I think with PEM, there's a mental aspect to it too, where people just cannot get the right mindset, right? And that's also athletic burnout too.
You're getting symptoms.
Yeah.
When you get that post-exertional, you get symptoms with that. So one of the symptoms that you get with having trouble swallowing or your breathing or other thing is anxiety with that. So when that happens, you've already experienced a really horrible time with it. So your brain's automatically like, oh God, please, not that.
Yeah.
And so there comes this panic. And that is really, really hard to deal with. Yeah. Really hard.
Yeah, absolutely. Jazan says, I'm here for practical tips and tricks for making and tracking and lifestyle easier and less dependent on willpower. So let's just touch on the willpower thing real quick. So willpower is required with this period. The one thing that I will say is that everybody has a limited amount of willpower. I think that's like that there's actual like neuroscience like to back that up, is that there's a limited amount of willpower. So what I would say is that, and this is where the tips and tricks are going to come in. I don't know if you want to hit that now or if you want to hit that later, Mick. Do you want to talk about something like the emotional stuff first, or do you want to talk about tips and tricks first?
Well, I guess in particular to her question, like I get what you're saying, because you're going to have like certain things you have to have daily that are going to help and assist, right?
Yeah. So let me finish my little bit on that, because that's where I'm going. So in terms of like willpower and all this stuff, like willpower is going to be important, but it's not going to be the end all be all. The thing that's actually going to get you through this and to like make life easier and stuff is having discipline. And discipline comes in so many different forms, right? Because they say that, motivation is a fleeting emotion. It comes and goes, it has ebbs and flows. That's totally true. So what you need to do is set up your life with non-negotiables. Now, how you go about that, it could be like Post-it notes or writing. One thing that I did was I downloaded, so I have this cool fancy new iPad, right? I have this iPad here. Can you guys see it? Cool. I got an iPad, right? And so one thing that I have is I have the Moleskine, I think it's called, apps on it, where it's like time page, and then there's like another one. I don't know.
Yeah.
You know the apps? Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to pay for the suite, but it's like $20 or something for the year. I don't remember. It doesn't matter. It's well worth the time. So what I do is I literally plug in every single thing throughout my day that's a non-negotiable. So non-negotiables, obviously going to work, right? And then Mick, you can touch on how you do this with pots, okay? Because you're closer. I'm far removed. So what I do is I plug in my athlete training is from 8 to 11 a.m., right? That's non-negotiable. After that, what I have to do is I do a time block from 11 to noon, and that's my workout time. After that, 1:30 to 3 p.m. Or, if I have a little bit extra time, I'll stream, edit video, do handle emails, stuff like that. And then I put more stuff in, like client call, blah, blah, blah. So I'm just doing a bunch of time blocking. I'm setting up my day, non-negotiables. I cannot get away from it because I have this thing that gives me alerts every single minute of my day for the most part. It's giving me alerts. And in the morning, it debriefs me with what my day is supposed to look like, right? So you need to update this person's program at 12:30. You need to update this program's at 12:45, stuff like that. So I think if you can set up your life in a way that you have habits and reminders, that's probably the best thing that you can do. She also says that water bottle is gigantic. How much fits in there? Was that a 64 ounce?
No, that's a gallon.
Yeah, that's a gallon?
Yeah.
Nice.
It's got a handle.
Is it a hydro flask? No.
It's a hydro gallon.
Nice. That's cool. I like that.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah, it's awesome.
So I guess you go ahead and give your tips and tricks on like how you remember to do everything. What I will say is, Jazan, you're in our app, so you have access to food journaling. You have access to linking MyFitnessPal with the app, so you can integrate it in there. You have you can set reminders in the app for yourself to like when you should drink your sodium, when you should do this, that, the third. Mick, I don't know how you do it.
Well, so when I first started out, I struggled with keeping track of everything, especially water. Like I'd be at work, I'd have this little cup that was 4 ounces. I'd be at home, I had this glass. I don't know how many ounces is in that. Hence, the gallon jug.
Yep.
I have water bottles on water bottles.
Yeah.
And I went through trial and error figuring out which water bottles I was going to drink for that day. So then if I had my water bottles, then I hit my marker. And then I would basically keep an idea about time frame. Oh, it's going to be 9 o'clock. I need to have this much water. And by this much, I literally mean like imagining how much of that water in whatever jug it was that I had to have in there. So I just kind of basically kept a mental note of it. I started out with a water reminder app and tried that. It was too much to keep up with. I couldn't always get to my phone. And then after that, I don't
think anybody does good with those types of apps.
No, it's tough. I did the, blood pressure monitoring app and stuff, and that helped keep track of that. But as far as food and everything else, I gave myself time frames. So I'm a type of a person, I'll eat it this time, and this time. So I would have my times I had to eat, and I would have my food that I had to eat. And then depending on, maybe I wasn't hungry, didn't eat the whole food that time, then okay. And I would mentally track that and keep a vague notes of writing it down somewhere in a notebook. But I'm like anybody else. I would lose my notebooks, or I would lose this, and I tried the app and tried this. The time page and the stuff that you're talking about is incredible. That's one of the best apps you can have for tracking anything.
Hell yeah. I think it's amazing.
Your calendar and everything blends together. Yeah, it's real nice.
The workflow on it is crazy, dude.
Yeah.
She goes, yeah, reminders and notes digitally doesn't work for me. I need physical things. Okay, so physical thing. When it comes to water, you already touched on the gallon thing. For me even, right, the guy who's like hardcore in this, I had a hydro jug, and it was 64 ounces, so it was half a gallon. That didn't really work for me either because it was like daunting to look at a water bottle that big, right? So like and especially I'm not a fan of water. Unless it's like really cold water, I can't drink it just straight up. So for me, the better strategy was to get a 42 or 46 ounce Yeti. I don't even know what kind. And also my hydro jug broke. Let's be totally clear there. But so the Yeti was a really good strategy for me because it's not that much water. I can actually drink it in like 2 minutes in the morning right upon waking. And a non-negotiable every single day for me is to have 1 packet of Element upon waking with this 46 ounce water bottle within 30 minutes. So it's just a non-negotiable. I don't have any reminder for it, But because it's such a small water bottle, I look at it and I'm like, that's easy to finish. So I'm able to finish it pretty quickly. And then I fill it up 3 times a day. Once in the morning, probably once in the middle of the day, and then 1 or 2 times later on at night after I'm done working out. And if I have any clients or if I'm doing work or whatever, I tend to go through fluids pretty quickly. And then to stay on top of sodium, because I'm not a person that drinks water for fun, I think it tastes like shit. Just every single time I fill this up, I put a packet of Element in it. It's like super simple. It's a really easy trick for me. It's just, I know that I need 3 of these to hit a gallon. So every single time I just put a packet of Element, boom, that's it. Let's talk about, you wanted to touch on supplements a little bit. So let's talk about, how do you remember to take your supplements then? I guess that's a good tip. I think that's a good trick that people would probably want to hear.
I mean, putting everything in time frames. Mm-hmm. Just stick everything on a time frame. Figure out what time you need to go to bed every night and what time you need to wake up to be consistent with your time frames, and then just do it.
Yeah.
Whether it's the weekend or the weekday, it doesn't matter. You got to stick to your time frame. Once you give the body a time frame, the body loves that. The mind's like, okay, this is my schedule. This is what I do. It likes consistency in that way for a lot of people. Very few people can just randomly do things. And especially with supplements, you want your supplements in at the right times. Mm-hmm. It's not what supplements you take so much as it is when you take it and what you're taking.
Yeah, I actually tend to agree with that. So a supplement that Dr. Tyler Pansner was talking about, on the live was pycnogenol. And so a really easy way to think about supplements like that are they have to be taken before you eat, right? Or like 20 minutes pre-eating. So a really good way to handle those type of supplements, the ones that you have to do before you eat, is I even had one of those like little grandpa pill bottles, right? That's what I would use. And then I would just have one specifically for immediately upon waking, walk into my kitchen, it's on the counter, I put them in my hands, toss it back with this with this bottle that I just filled, drink it, put them down, chill for a little bit, do some reading or maybe a little bit of work. Then I cook my breakfast. It's about 20 minutes in, whatever vitamins and minerals that I need to take with food because I don't want to throw up and I don't want to feel like shit. I put it in and I just do the same thing just over and over again. So Jazan, let's be, if you can you be a little bit more specific with what also you want tips and tricks on to kind of automate the day, I guess? I'm trying to also, if you guys see me looking away, I'm trying to write down timestamps on the iPad for when we're talking about certain things. I think that'll come in handy later on if we want to clip it.
Yeah.
This is fun, dude. I like this.
Yeah, I hope it helps kind of break it down for other people to understand the little intricacies in it. It's not It's not you just do one thing, you're just taking in sodium every day and then you're fixed. There's what people don't realize is the steps every day and the workouts for riding that line of, building up but not going too much to wreck yourself. That's vital. 100%. That's what helps this condition.
Yeah.
So when they say you're fixed for it's the Levine program or whatever, those are protocols for just put out there generally for people. But my situation, your situation, Justin's situation are all different.
Yeah.
So you got different levels of the protocol essentially. So you want to gear your stuff towards where you're at so that you can build.
Yeah.
And the walking, the workouts, the right food, supplements or medicine if you need it, that's all vital stuff when it comes to, and that's where it comes down to discipline. And the best thing I found out with the emotions part of it is you're going to have emotions regardless. Understand the things that you have to do and make yourself do them regardless of your emotions. Try that. When you have an emotion about it, okay, I'm worried about this, I'm just gonna do it, and then just do it. You just got to kind of move through it and chance it and really kind of face it. It's tough, but it gets better. It gets a lot better.
Yeah. So she says, I've got to think hard. I actually have my routines pretty much down. I just really like making things easier. Let me think about it. Yeah. I mean, I think in life, everybody just likes to make things easier, right? Like anything that I can automate now, I just automate it. So like all of my
Yeah.
in-person clients too, just recently, like it was kind of a son of a gun, but I put them all in my app, which is like a lot of people. And then I have them all automated now too, all on something. So not automated, but they're all within the same program. And I just kind of like, now if I ever leave out of town or whatever, they just all do like, they have their stuff with them. So I don't have to worry about programming it and then sending it to all of them, that type of thing. Best ways to
Yeah.
cool down fast or to stay cool. I mean, shoot, for me, I always say keep the house cool. Like if you got AC, put the AC on, right? And if anybody else complains about it, well, they can put more layers on. You can't take your skin off. Right?
Well, that's where, like, on the job site, when I went back to work, the first 2 days were 100+ days,
Yeah.
and there's no AC out there. I'm in
No.
pants.
Yep.
I had my long orthopedic socks on that went up to my knees, and my first week back to work was kind of brutal. Like I got rashes, and and I discovered a whole new histamine response in the system too, because I'd spent 3 months conditioning back, but I had certain conditions to be in,
Mm-hmm.
and that wasn't part of those conditions. So, for me, it's you do what you got to do. Like if I'm on a job site and it's too hot, I'll find an avenue to get cooler. And maybe I'll go to somebody and say, hey, look, I'm having some issues. I need to go cool down. So whatever avenue that is for you, that's kind of what you do to build that up. But the point I want to make is you're not going to cater the world to your POTS condition,
Right.
but you can cater yourself to the world conditions having POTS.
Yeah, for sure.
So you want to keep, you don't just stay out of the sun the rest of the day. You go back out there. That's part of building up your tolerance. That's part of working out. The little intricacies in all this, those are the most important moments and things to do. You don't run away from them.
That's actually what I was gonna say. So to interrupt you, sorry. But
No, you're good.
I don't think it's a matter of like cooling down fast or staying cool. It's a matter of being able to build up your tolerance to the conditions of the world, as you were kind of saying, right? You're saying like you can't cater the world to you, but you can cater yourself to the conditions of the world. Same thing. Build up your tolerance. And I know that like heat tolerance is a touchy subject, and some people run really hot. I run super hot, right? I will say this. After talking to Pansner though, I kind of forgot that Pignogenol got rid of that for me too. So I have a bottle of it still, and I'm gonna run it again, and then I might make a video on it, on Pignogenol and my experience with it, because I think if I remember correct, that really helped me out with especially like my nighttime heat. And I have an 8 sleep. I have the freaking cream of the crop bed, that cools and all that. So she says, huh?
Yeah, I just seen Jazan mentioned about the neck fan and the shirts and stuff, the fans that blow up your shirts. Like that's my point though.
Yeah.
Because I seen this. So the first thing I did when I got back on the job site was went to Amazon and tried to figure out cooling sleeves and fans and stuff. And I didn't get any. Like, so if you have a cooling fan that goes up your shirt, or you have one that goes around your neck, use them my suggestion is to use them when you need them. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But in the times that you want to kind of suffer in that being hot. You want your body to be able to adapt to that situation so that your stress response to it is lower.
No, keep going. Sorry. Go ahead.
Well, it's stuff you want to use as an aid, but you don't want to completely delete things. You want to bring them back in, and you want to get used to being as comfortable as possible in suffering. Yeah. And that's the same you do in working out. If you're just regular Joe Schmo, is your goal is to go suffer so that you can build and increase.
So in that video that I was sharing the comment from earlier, one of the points that I made was, this is my best advice. It's the least sexy. You guys aren't going to like it. And that is getting comfortable being uncomfortable. A majority of the things that people with POTS complain about aren't real problems. They're very uncomfortable issues, right? So being hot, it's not a dangerous thing. It's not, it's not something that is going to like destroy you or anything like that. It's something that you need to learn to tolerate. And so, but a lot of people have a threshold for discomfort that's like this big, right? Their threshold for discomfort is that big. So you have to learn how to be comfortable being uncomfortable. I know it's like a really cheesy thing, you know, the David Goggins of the world, like who's gonna carry the boats and stuff. But dude, it's so true. If you have to build your tolerance up for being uncomfortable, right? And like a lot of times it's like people get anxiety or they freak out and stuff like that about like, I'm just too hot, or I don't know about, like, even me, dude, I'll be working out in like 90-degree weather and I'm like feeling like I'm crawling out of my skin hot, but I'm like, I know that this is just uncomfortability. There's nothing.
And it's scared when you're in that and you're uncomfortable. It's scary because you don't know what's going to happen. So that you know that's part of it, but you still just, okay, I'm going to be fine. Yeah, I'm good.
You deal with it. You just deal with it. Yeah.
It's about being calm in those situations. You got to calm yourself down to be able to move through that stuff. It's not easy.
And that's a learned skill too. That's like learning how to talk yourself off the edge is a learned skill too. So we'll get there too, because I think that's initially what you wanted to talk about, really. Hubly flavonoids are good. They can be. They're not always good. It's not like it's not a one size fits all thing. Flavonoids aren't great for everybody, because what flavonoids tend to do is decrease blood pressure too. And not everybody with POTS has high blood pressure. Some have low blood pressure problems too. So flavonoids aren't always a great thing. They're good for your heart, but there's caveats to every single supplement. If you haven't
watched, that's the tricky part about all this.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's hard because like, and the only reason why I'm able to like recommend certain supplements to people is just because I have a database, right? Like I have things that I can work off of from other people or whatever. For microclots, flavonoids are good. Sure, if you have microclots, yeah, go ahead and take flavonoids. But again, it might be good for that, but some of the other stuff that you're dealing with, it might not be good for. So you might have to find something else to deal with. Flavonoids are not like any supplement. Nothing is the end all be all. Nothing is good for everybody. Actually, there's some stuff that could be good for everybody, but nothing is just going to be a one size fits all. You know, dosing is dose dependent for people, all that stuff. So
that's why it was so hard to realize that I can't have almonds, because the effect of it was so minute. It was easy to oversee.
Yeah. Did you hear Dr. Tyler's experience with almonds too, or peanuts, whatever he was talking about? So he worked in a lab, right? He's a scientist. He worked in a lab for a long time with rats or whatever, and his snack would be peanuts or almonds. I forget what it was, and he didn't realize that it was actually contributing to some of his problems. Like that was it. And then he was also allergic to like rats, and he was working in a rodent, lab, all these different things. And so then he got rid of almonds or peanuts. I forget what exact nut it was. He got rid of those, and like he cleared up a whole bunch of stuff for himself. So Jazan goes, I try to get my body as used to heat as I can. And after that, I use fans and cool packs. That's definitely a good strategy. Yeah. Try to build up your tolerance as much as you can. And then another strategy that I've given to people is like, they make those cooling vests too. The frozen ones. You can freeze the vest. It's the same thing as like how you would dose yourself with hold on one second, dude. Sorry. Okay. We're going to have a little tangent in a second there. Okay. In a second here. Use the cooling vest, take it off, put it back in the freezer, use the cooling vest again, take it off, put it back in the freezer, and slowly titrate your time that you do that over time. So what I like to do is I like to progressively do things over time, progressively expose yourself to certain things, all that. We can talk about getting into restaurants and all these stuff. I recommend progressive stuff all the time. Georgi Petsatsia, I think that's how you say his name. He says, "What's your resting heart rate?" I'm not going to get into that.
Well, it's a common question. I get it. And it's so dependent, man. But I will say this, like, it's dependent on different factors. So resting heart rate with none of these things in place that you have to do daily is one thing. Resting heart rate with medicines you've added is a totally different thing. So resting heart rate with being in the middle of working out or being in the middle of a really stressful situation that's going on in your life is a different thing. You've got different contributing factors. So resting heart rate during a workout, it can go up to 130. And that's resting. That's just got done resting, waiting for it to come back down. Resting heart rate's higher. But resting heart rate just sitting on the couch is a totally different thing. And then you've got to consider, are you talking about resting heart rate before recovery, after recovery, during recovery? The best advice I can give on resting heart rate is that in the very, very, very beginning, I mean, you've just discovered that this is the issue. You realize that your resting heart rate's higher all the time, or maybe you're going to go on to a medicine. Those are the times when I would consider my resting heart rate a factor. So the first time I went on propranolol, I had to track my resting heart rate so that it didn't go too low, because we were adjusting propranolol doses based on you having adrenergic POTS. So resting heart rate was important at that time. But the second that anything got dialed in, then I'm good to go. Yeah. Outside of that, I just recently cut off half of my propranolol a day. So instead of taking 2 doses a day, I take 1 now. And they say, why would you do that if the propranolol was working? Well, the resting heart rate's gotten better. The blood pressure seems to be okay with the increase of sodium. And now I take out half the propranolol because my personal goal is to not be on any medicines. Now, if I need to be on a medicine, then fine, I'll stay on a medicine. Because in the long run, it'll help me health-wise to be on that if I have something physical in the body that's going on that I can't control through diet or exercise or whatever else. So when you talk about resting heart rate, be real careful, because when I first started with Justin, it was real easy. I bought a watch to track my resting heart rate. I haven't checked my resting heart rate in I don't know how many weeks now. Mm-hmm. But in the very beginning, you're going to realize real quick is there's a point to tracking it and then to purposely not paying attention to it. Because if you are experiencing something and then you look down and you realize your resting heart rate is 150, you're going to freak out.
Yeah.
But if you just took a little jog, or you have something going on in your life that's so intense stressfully to you because your central nervous system's a lot of whack, then your resting heart rate's going to go up too. Or if you just got in the shower, your resting heart rate's going to go up too. So there's times where you don't want to really be concerned about it. You just want to be more concerned with, okay, I'm good. I know what's happening. I've got an idea of what I need to do. I'm in the shower. It's really hot. So all I'm going to do is just shut off the shower. I'm going to step out. I'm going to dry off, and then I'm going to go to the couch and lay down for a second.
So those are all really, really good points. Yeah. I guess, see, this is why we're working good with each other, right?
Yeah.
So let me give my little take on it. The reason why I am not concerned with resting heart rate, and why I think that most people with POTS should not be concerned with heart rate, at least in the beginning, is because we all know this to be true, right? That's why I'm kind of the big brother here, is that you are going to freak yourself out concerning yourself with your heart rate.
100%.
And you're going to, right? Because we've all done it. We all did it. I did this too. You're going to prevent yourself from making progress by concerning yourself with your resting heart rate. And let me be very clear too. Let me be very, very clear about people with POTS. The majority of you don't even understand what a normal heart rate looks like. The majority of people watching this and asking questions like this think that a 150 heart rate during exercise is high. The majority of people do, right? And so the reason why I say the majority is because I work with a bunch of people with POTS. So every single person that I've worked with has mentioned something within the 150 to 165 heart rate zone when they're working out. And then that for some reason is very concerning and high to them. Now, the thing that I have to say is I also work with high level athletes. I work with them in the gym, and none of them are concerned with their heart rate. None of them. And I've seen some of their heart rates while working out, and it's reached like 200. But they don't care because they don't have a chronic illness. So they don't have this health anxiety that something's wrong with them. And that's where the heart rate thing really feeds the health anxiety and gets people freaked out. Now, also, the reason why you should not be that concerned with your heart rate is because of this. If you've been diagnosed with POTS, it's also likely that you have been given all of the tests. You've probably had a stress echocardiogram. You've probably had a normal stress test. Yeah. You've probably had MRIs, you've probably had CT scans, you've done all the things, dude. You've done ECGs, EKGs, all this stuff, right? You've done everything.
Yep.
If there's no structural damage to your heart and you're having heart rate fluctuations, you can be sure that you're not going to have a heart attack and die, especially if it's because you have POTS.
Just real quick, when we started our program, and at the very beginning, I was so worried about heart rate, and then a couple months in or something like that, I was doing a row. I was doing rows, and then I would get up and I would do the box step ups with weights, and then I would do one other thing. And as I'm doing this, I realized that it's a real big load on my body, and that it's tough for me to do. And so, just out of curiosity, I was like, I wonder what my heart rate's at, because it'd been a long time since I checked it. And that was the day that I took it, and it was like 153 or 160 something. And I posted it in the chat in the app. And I realized at that moment why you're never really concerned with heart rate was because during that time, it was intense to have a heart rate that high, but it was really normal. Now, when you talk about you get up and your heart rate goes up, that stuff happens. Like, it's going to happen. But the whole reason behind this, and think of this, if you didn't experience any symptoms from your heart rate increasing, would you even have the thought to look at your heart rate and pay attention to it?
Because check this out. Normal people have the same thing happen. The difference is that, look, your body has to make adjustments. It has to. Everyone's blood pressure goes through a change when they stand up and sit down. Everyone's. The difference is the amount it goes up, right? That's the difference. Everyone's heart rate goes up and down when they go from sitting to standing, laying to standing. The difference is the amount, and if they have any symptomology that accompanies that, the physiological response, right? Here's the thing, though, right? Here's the thing. The other reason why you shouldn't be that concerned with your heart rate or whatever, I could name offhand 10 different reasons why your heart rate goes through so many variances throughout the entire day, right? And it can be nutrition, it could be hydration, what kind of vitamins did you take that day? Did you have any foods that don't agree with you? What kind of exercise did you do the day before? How much sleep did you get? That's 6. Are you warm or are you cold? Are you injured? Do you have a virus? Do you have a low-hanging virus that's in your body? And then wait, what would be number 10? What would be number 10? Is your girlfriend pissing you off? You know, there's so many there's so many reasons why you could have heart rate variances throughout the day. How stressed are you? There's so many, and a lot of people honestly don't even have a good grasp on how stressed they actually are throughout the day, right? And so there's so many differences or variances of why your heart rate could make all these different shifts and changes that it's not worth it. It's not worth figuring out what is going on with your heart rate. What's worth it is, are you having symptoms? Are you having symptoms today? Okay, you're not? Don't worry about your heart rate. Are you having symptoms right now? You are? Okay, maybe take a look at your heart rate if you want. I don't think that it's productive. What is the symptom? How do we fix it? You know, that type of thing.
Jazan mentioned something. She says, I thought that if your resting heart rate got higher, you did too much. Would you say that even through exercise was a lot for you, wasn't affecting your recovery negatively? That's basically what we're saying. It's like, so just because your heart rate's higher does not mean you need to so much worry about it or anything like that. Like, for example, when I first would track my heart rate, anytime my heart rate, I would go up the stairs, and there was 2 levels. So I would go up the first 2 levels, and I knew at this room that my heart rate would be 160. And then I would sit down and I would rest. I would let my heart rate come back down, and then I would shoot for the 3rd floor and eventually make it up there and be out of breath and short of breath. And then I would get gowned up to go into these clean rooms where we worked and did electrical stuff, basically. So the only reason the heart rate affected me was because of the shortness and breath that increased with it. Okay, so when I first started working out, I was doing walking and the rows. The rows were murder. And I got to a point where I was just okay with being short of breath. I was like, okay, I'm short of breath. This is about how much I can do. Okay, I'll wait, and then I'll do more after that. Like,
You have
so
to
it,
get
it
comfortable with
wasn't,
that.
yeah, it wasn't that the high heart rate caused symptoms. Well, let me rephrase that. Having a higher heart rate caused symptoms, but it caused symptoms because my body wasn't adapted to this particular environment.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
then in the program, the goal was to push those limits, increase the heart rate to get this symptom, and then stop, let the body recover, repeat, do this in the program for that day. And then my recovery outside of that was really important.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the things I did outside of that gym time was really important. So it wasn't really that my goal was to avoid high heart rate. My goal was to adapt my body so that when it had high heart rate, it didn't freak out about it anymore.
Yeah, for
So
sure. Dude,
if I
yeah.
try, yeah, if I
Go
try
ahead.
to climb up in the ceiling, it takes a lot of load in my muscles to pull myself up there.
Yep.
But if I increase my muscle strength, then when I do it next time, it doesn't take as much, which means my central nervous system doesn't react as strongly, which means that I don't have symptoms from there.
Yeah.
So then I'm not worried.
Dude, you just, that was a really, really good explanation. That was really
Yeah.
good. Yeah. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
So yeah, Jazan, what I would say too is, your heart rate being higher or not could be a result of a negative recovery or a bad recovery, but that shouldn't dictate whether or not you do activity again. That shouldn't be the
Right.
dictator, right? Because your body needs to learn how to recover, and it needs to learn how to
Right.
recover under stress and taking on more stress. That's super integral, right? So I guess a more useful metric would be probably, how fatigued are you, right? And even that's not a very good metric either, because
Yeah.
we don't really know. Like, I think I told this story on a live one time before. The CrossFit Open, I'll make it very quick. The CrossFit Open 2 years ago, there was this workout that trashed me, dude. Absolutely. Like, I could not walk downstairs. I thought I had rhabdomyolysis, which is basically you have to go to the hospital because
Yeah.
protein is breaking down from your muscle into your bloodstream, and
Yeah.
it shuts your kidneys down. I was that hurt. Like, and she goes, I go, I don't know if I can redo this workout, Mia, that's my coach's name. And she goes, good thing you can work out sore. I was like, you son of a gun, dude. So yeah, I went back. So we don't always have the best gauge on ourselves, right? Like, we can't always be super
Right.
objective. And so now, so yeah, I would say that there's not really a metric to go by, especially because, like, I don't know, dude, all the reasons that I thought that I said before, if your resting heart rate is higher, you could be getting sick. Like something,
This
or
is Well, this is the metric that we basically went off for my stuff.
yeah.
So I noticed early on that in about a day or two, I would experience a symptom. So anything back from a day or two, it would take a day or two before I would experience that symptom. So when I hit a symptom, after a while, and this took weeks to figure out, but after a while, I would notice that symptom came before this flare up.
Okay.
So
Yep.
I would notice little things, and it's about learning your body and not running away from what your symptoms are that you experience. It's honestly, POTS is more about you're not supposed to. The reason this is happening is because of this stuff that you do,
Yeah.
but you need to do this stuff to increase it so that you can do these things again.
100%.
And
Yeah.
that's the whole deal with POTS. So you're going to have to spend a lot of weeks and a lot of research and time to figure out what your symptoms are. Anything from having trouble swallowing, rash, whatever your symptoms manifest as, and then learning the other symptoms behind those that you never even noticed before, that you probably experienced your whole life.
1,000%. 1,000%.
Yeah.
You guys like this video for Mick because he's doing a really good job at explaining this stuff. So if you haven't liked it already, please hit that like button. It helps push the video into the algorithm. The last live that we did has been freaking crushing. It's been doing really good after being uploaded. So it's been really good. I want to take a second and read the chat again real quick.
Yeah, I'll be right back. Give me 1 second.
Yeah, go ahead. Georgie Patsatsia, thank you, Justin, for this channel. I've been dealing with POTS-like symptoms for several months after COVID, and your videos really motivated me to get my ass back in the gym. Rock on, dude. I'm super happy to hear that. What I would say is, dude, if you're having trouble getting on track, if you're having trouble figuring out how to actually get get in the gym, stay in the gym, make progress. If you have any trouble with hydration strategies or nutritional strategies, press that link in our description and join our Positive Pots community. You're going to get 1 free week in there if you hit that link. Otherwise, I do one-on-one coaching. Mick is super active in the forum. And yeah, we're just looking to grow it. So if you haven't already, hit that link and join. And there's a free workout program, or not a free workout program, but there's a workout program in there for you. You'll start from day 1. You'll do some progressions. There's resources in there, how to tolerate heat better, how to build up your heat tolerance, how to hydrate, elimination diet stuff, a whole bunch of resources in there. And we're just like steady building it up too. Hubley, when I was working, I went to sleep with 130 BPM and woke up with 115 BPM. Now, if I go to the gym and did a bit too much later in the day, my heart rate jumps in increments 4 beats from 70 to 100. Yeah, I think basically everybody's had that experience with POTS.
That's legit, though. You're noticing the little tiny changes of 4 beats per minute between workouts and not. And that's the things you got to do, is start noticing the little intricacies of all the parts of this, because it's not simple. It's not laid out. Most doctors don't even deal with this shit. So
yeah,
everybody here and that's the point of, I think, of these lives, is this is the forefront of POTS condition being more normalized or noticed in society, so that doctors, when they go to school, learn about it so that they can treat people with it, because there's a lot more people that have it now than they've realized do before.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we're building up. The point of these lives is to like have the information out there, right? I think that this is going to be like the only channel probably that has all the actual subjective experience of viewers and stuff, you know, different people that are like coming in, commenting their experiences. That's part of the reason why I want you guys to join the app so bad too, so that we have this large database of people, and a large database of people that have gotten better and different experiences or whatever, because there's no way that the community at large, the scientific community at large, can help the POTS community if there's nowhere that has the data tracking it. And the cool thing about the app, I have access to have over 200 people in there right now. So if more people join, we get more data, we have more stuff to go to. Like, one of the interviews that I really want to do is Levine, the dude who made the program. That's one of the interviews that I want to do. I'm going to Texas next month, bro. Like, I'm going to shoot an email out there and see if he's available, you know? So like, the more people that come in the app and can give their subjective experience, and like, you know, we can talk to and put all the metrics from everybody in and be like, hey, why does this happen? Why does this happen? What, to the man himself, you know what I mean? I just think, yeah. So anyway, one thing that I do want to say though, is that I think one thing is really underlooked with POTS, that I've kind of hesitated or shied away from talking about, because I just think it would have been too offensive. I think some of you guys have to kind of take a look at your body composition as well, right? Like, are you overweight? Do you have a lot of adipose tissue? Are you anorexic almost? Like, do you not have a lot of stuff on your body? Because a lot of these issues too, right? Like, I've had guys that I'm like, dude, we have to put 20 pounds on your frame, because your issue is not POTS. You're having POTS symptoms because you have no muscle. You have no body weight. Like, you are underfed. That's one thing that is super common with men that I'm seeing.
Dude, let me just jump in real quick. Like, I'm a Leo. I'm a fire sign. I'm an intense person. I'm the guy that if I need to take charge of the room, I can when I need to. Like, as a guy especially, or anybody in particular, it is hard to hear your own shit. The hardest thing for me was one day I picked up a 45-pound bar and I literally thought it was heavier, because my body had deconditioned down so bad from the nutrition and from not working out. Like, I had to accept the fact that I was smaller and this is how I am. And we all see ourselves as worse than we are. But you got to accept like where you're at. Just, okay, that's fine. If you're overweight, that's fine. If you're too skinny, that's fine. If you don't have muscle tissue where in the parts that you need to be developed, that's fine. None of us care. Nobody's going to sit here and judge you for anything. Except for the only thing anybody wants to see is everybody progress. So take it with a grain of salt when you look at yourself, but be able to be honest with yourself. That's the most important thing.
I mean, you have to love yourself, right? Like, you have to, but you have to love yourself so much that you're willing to look in the mirror and be like, is this part of my issue? And then change it, right? I talked about on my last stream, about that. I've had multiple conversations with myself in the mirror, like literally Michael Jackson style. Look yourself in the mirror and then
Yeah.
like tell yourself what's wrong with you. You know what I mean? Why are you being a loser? You're not working hard enough, all this stuff. And it's really, really freaking hard conversation to have. But specifically for the conversation with POTS is I think some people need to look at themselves and be like, am I overweight? Am I eating shitty food? Am I grossly underweight? Because malnutrition and overnutrition can both add to POTS symptoms.
Yeah.
It's just a fact. You can't argue with it. And a lot of times I see these influencers on TikTok or Instagram. Actually, I've been lacking on the TikTok, so I'm not even going to say that, but that's where I found some of these people. But TikTok, Instagram, whatever, I see so many of them like PTSD, depression, OCD, POTS syndrome, fibromyalgia, whatever, all these different things. But then you look at them, they're anorexic and also grossly overweight, like very overweight, you know? And I'm like, a lot of your guys' problems, specifically the influencer types, like it would go away if you stopped eating hyper processed foods. And for the really skinny people, your problems would go away too if you went to the gym a little bit, just did some form of exercise, some sort of formal exercise, and also ate more protein and ate a little bit more calories.
That's where you get into the necessities that you have to have with this condition.
Yeah. Yep.
Like those necessities are what keeps all these symptoms and issues away.
Yeah.
You're going to manage this, but you're not going to completely cure it. But your cure is managing it.
I want to touch on that real quick because somebody asked me this in live the other day. If this thing goes away, and actually I want to kind of push back on what you're saying a little bit because there's research, there's data that suggests that this more times than not does just go away and it goes away by itself. What I think can happen is that you manage it, right, to a point where like you don't think that like like you still have symptoms or whatever, and then one day it flutters away. Because in the beginning, what the research was pretty heavy on was like females in high school, and I think it was like soccer players was the population that they had the data on, and it was like within 2 to 3 years of diagnosis, it went away completely. So we can extrapolate from that and like kind of make assumptions on what that actually is. Was it like female, you know, like teenage age anxiety or something like that? What was it exactly? You know what I mean? But I've told this story too, where I was dating a girl for however many years, and she had dysautonomia at the time. She literally had pass out spells in the shower, and it just went away. Like it just never happened to her ever again. Mick, I'm gonna leave you alone for a second. I have to pee super bad. I've had 2 of these plus coffee, so I'm gonna leave you guys in the chat right now. Ask Mick some questions. He's doing a killer job, so I want you guys to ask him questions, maybe some advices or whatever you have. All right, I'll be right back. Hey, and if you feel like you have any topics that you just want to go off about.
Yeah. So with the working out, like who mentioned the working out? I forget. Let's see. Oh, getting Georgie. Real quick, Georgie. So when you go back to the gym, I can't stress how important it is to be patient with yourself. No ego lifting. Get in your own little world. Do your workouts and then get out. You know what I mean? Like another thing for me is I noticed that when I work out and I put that extraneous load on my body, being in the hot tub after I work out is almost a necessity at this point. So when you guys have your workouts, just remember right after your workouts what your body needs. Does it need to roll out on the roller? Does it need a jacuzzi? Does it need to stretch? Does it need to whatever? Do whatever you need to do for your body to recover. Epsom salt baths are really, really good to do at home. So that's another idea to get your muscles to relax, because that's your goal, is you want your muscles to relax after your workout so that everything can start recovering. What you're eating after your workout is important. And personally, one supplement that I take every day is creatine. I want that creatine to be able to get into my muscles and help water get to my muscle level. I don't want just surface level hydration, you know, when it comes to different aspects of it. And Jazan says, how long would your resting heart rate be higher for? Maybe that's for Hubley. I'm not sure. It depends. You can bring your resting heart rate down through breathing. You know, and this is one of the things that nobody wants to do when you got this shit. You don't want to stop and figure out how you're supposed to breathe now and do these stupid little breathing things that you're supposed to do. Like, nobody wants to do any of this stuff. You know, I didn't either, but you know, there's other times where learning how to breathe is really important when it comes to helping a panic attack or, you know, getting through a stressful situation. Breathing is a lot more valuable than people understand. So that's a good way to bring your heart rate down. And another thing I want to touch on is a lot of parts of this POTS condition for me was accepting that this is what it is. This is what I've got right now. This is what I've got to deal with. I'm going to deal with it. So I accept that I'm having trouble breathing. I accept that I'm panicking right now. I accept that, oh my God, I'm in the middle of my workout. I'm freaking out. I'm in the middle of the gym with everybody around. Do I really want to break down in front of everybody? And then it's just accepting, like, okay, I'm having trouble breathing. That's happening. It's okay. It's going to pass. I know how this goes. And talking yourself through that stuff.
Mick, what about with coming to terms with some of it could be anxiety, like adding to the anxiety? Or anxiety
it all adds
to it.
Anxiety. I mean, you think about it. Like if I go and I eat fried food, right? Because I've always had an issue with fried food. If I go and eat fried food, I get fucking bloated ass stomach, like so tight that you're worried about it.
Can I tell you guys a thing that I went through real quick last week that scared the living shit out of me? This is like the first time in a long time that I was like, I need to go to the hospital. I'm gonna die. You ready for this?
Yeah.
Last week, not this past weekend, the weekend before, so 2 weekends ago, right? You guys are all gonna like be like, Justin's relatable now. What the heck? Okay, ready. Check this out. I had just a weekend of shitty eating, right? And I've always had like acid reflux issues and like gut issues. Like, look, I have a 6-pack, right? But it's distended. You see that?
Yeah.
Okay. So I have a 6-pack, but it's like distended gut, right? Okay. I've always had gut issues. And so this 2 weekends ago, we had the worst weekend of eating. Like, we went out for fish fry. I'm from Wisconsin. So we had fish fry on Friday night. That usually doesn't kill me, right? But then the next day we had shitty food again. And then on Sunday we had shitty food again. And that's just not normal for me. You know what I mean? It's just not normal. And so the next day I had to retest a 5K. So 5K as fast as I could do. And I did it in 22 minutes and 57 seconds. Okay. That's fast. That's very fast. It's like under 7 minute, something like that. Under 7 minute splits, right? It was 6:30, 7 something. But on average, under 7 minutes. Anyway, I remember thinking, wow, my throat is really dry right now. It's like itchy. I should stop and grab some water real quick, right? And I was like, no, you can't. Don't be a pussy. You're going to be fine. It's like 90 degrees out. Humidity is at like 80% or whatever. And so then anyway, when I got done with that, I go in the gym. Immediately, my throat closed. Like, I had what's called a laryngospasm, right? So my throat actually closed. I couldn't breathe. Like, not anxiety, couldn't breathe. Physically could not breathe. I was like, like that. And I just so happened there was an EMT there, right? There's an EMT. It's one of my clients' moms. And I like go like, I get up and I run like however fast I can, not realizing that all I need to do is take a sip of water and just try to breathe slow, right? And I'm like, I thought like by that time my throat had like opened at least enough for me to breathe. I was like, dude, I thought I was going to have you save my life. I swear to God. I was like, she's like, yeah, that was a laryngospasm. And then that was the first time that I like went on Google and like Googled something like that in a long time. And they last like a minute and they're like, just try to be calm and just like drink water or whatever. So it's not like anything bad. But what I realized was it's acid reflux, like is what causes that. Right. So I had to change my diet and whatever. So shit, dude, what were we talking about? Why did I bring that up? Anxiety, right?
The sheer panic in it.
Yeah, so it was the panic in it that drove me crazy. So even to this day, like I still deal with some of that. If something crazy happens to me, right? Like that happened to me and I was like, oh shit, this is it. I'm done. You know, all I could think about was my son. It messed me up the entire day, dude. That experience messed me up the entire day. And what I had to do was I had to be like, and the next day too, I was like hesitant to like work out hard, you know? And so what I had to do was, for me, this is a tip and trick, I guess, for you guys dealing with the anxiety portion of it, was I had to weigh out the pros and cons again, like I did that time on the treadmill. You guys have all heard my treadmill story. But I had to weigh out the pros and cons. Am I going to let this thing, what just happened to me, defeat me and hold me back?
Right.
Or am I going to deal with it as it comes, if it ever comes again? Because there's a chance that it happens again. There's a chance that it happens to anybody. There's also a chance that it never happens again. You know, so long as I take care of my diet and I do all the right things, I drink water when I need to, all this stuff. So it's making choices, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, did you answer Jazan's question of how long would your resting heart rate be higher for?
I think she was asking Hubley that.
Okay, got it. I don't know how the chats work. Can you like direct it towards somebody in the chat?
I'm not sure. I think you just respond and it responds to whoever. You might be able to on your end since you run the chat.
I might be able to, yeah. All right, so I have to work out here in a little bit, but I want to keep going for just a little bit longer. Oh, she was asking you.
Resting heart be higher for what? Like during the workout? Like how long would it stay higher, or how long did it take to come back down? Is that what you mean?
I think with POTS syndrome, it's pretty common for people's resting heart rate to be high for a very long time, especially post-exercise. People's heart rate doesn't come down for a long time, and that's okay because it actually happens with normal people too. If you've gone through, and remember, intense is different for everybody. Everybody has different thresholds. So after going to a place, I would have a heart rate for 100 for hours.
So you got to remember, like for me personally, this is how I look at it. I have a central nervous system dysfunction. So the dysfunction comes in whenever other avenues take place. Does that make sense? Like so what I'm eating, what I'm drinking, how much sodium, what I did that day, that doesn't mean the heart rate's just going to come back down and be normal the rest of the time, because the body's still processing. That's why all these necessities you do every day are so important, because there's certain things you have to have in check first, 100%, before you can go to the outside and start making changes here, and here.
Yep.
And that's where ultimately you get the power back to be able to go, okay, it's 100 degrees outside. I'm going to go work in the yard, knowing full well that you might have an issue, but you have the knowledge of what to do whenever you have that issue. And you're always pushing the envelope a little bit. You're not pushing the envelope full bore. We don't go from laying on the couch to running a 100-mile marathon. You go from laying on the couch to taking steps around your house, and then after that, it's this and this and this. Your whole thing with all this is to slowly bring it up. So
yeah, can I touch on that real quick? Can I jump in there real quick? So a lot of your guys' problems with the heart rate issues and your heart rate not coming down and it being super high, 100's not super high. But when you have those issues of your heart rate being higher for a long period of time, it's because you're not conditioned, because you don't have your conditioning back down. You still are deconditioned, and you might be pushing the threshold of maybe the appropriate amount of exercise for you. So now, just because you don't, let's not get something twisted here. Just because you don't get wrecked by a day of exercise doesn't mean that was an appropriate amount of exercise for you. Right? So there's an appropriate amount. And so you need to learn how to build up slowly. You need to figure out where you're at now and slowly build up, because if your heart rate is staying up for prolonged periods of time, it's not dangerous, it's not bad, but that just might mean that you don't have a grasp on what the appropriate amount of exercise for you is. And so you need to figure that out, and then your body will make the adaptations necessary. Now, if you're going to start at a higher threshold and you're not getting symptoms and you're feeling fine or whatever, that's fine too. But it will take longer for the adaptation to be made. Fact, point blank, period. The adaptation takes longer. That's why there's these terms in exercise science and exercise physiology called max recoverable volume, max or what's it called? Minimum effective dose, things like that. Go ahead, Mick. Sorry.
But Jazan, that's basically what we're saying, is because when you said, oh, okay, so it does still mean it wasn't the best amount of stuff to do. So when we made changes in the workout, like from 1 week to the next, so just going from, okay, you're better at this, let's move to this now. It wasn't, okay, so last week you did, for a couple weeks now, you've been doing rows for 3 sets at, 15 seconds or 30 seconds maybe? And then the next week he's going to increase it. That doesn't mean we do we do 4 sets at a minute, that doesn't mean we do 3 sets at a minute. It might mean we do 3 sets at 45 seconds.
Right.
Or he might adjust how it's done. Because those little tiny small changes, believe it or not, you won't think it at first when you start, but those little small changes are what's important, because you're not going to go like, okay, I'm lifting 50 pounds to, okay, let's go to 70. No, it's, I'm lifting 50 pounds. Let's try 52 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
It's little tiny ones, because you'll notice symptoms as you build up if you go too much. And in our case, having POTS and recovering from it, you need those little tiny adjustments. You don't need big adjustments. The big adjustments will wreck all the shit you've just worked for.
Yeah, 100%. That's absolutely correct. Hold on one second, you guys. I'm going to do something quick because I think that this is... Mick, I want you to benefit from this too. And, you know, your time is valuable. So you guys, to be honest with you, what I'm going to do right now, I don't really care how this seems or doesn't seem, but I want Mick to benefit from this too. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my PayPal in the description. And if you guys send any sort of donation or anything like that, I'm going to send it straight to Mick for this, what's it called? For this stream.
Oh, we don't have to do that. Like, I eventually, like, people, you know, let's talk about monetizing and stuff real quick. So I've thought about this. Like, I'm an electrician. I go to work for that. Outside of that, I have a supervisor's license that I'm trying to achieve, which takes up X amount of time. Outside of that, I have a home life and everything else. So I thought about, you know, when it comes to this stuff, how does it benefit people? Everything takes time. Your time dependent on what you use it for is based on what you love or what you enjoy doing. This program and everything Justin does, this wasn't geared towards money. Now, I will say that after you've established how much knowledge and how much experience he's gathered in this, from having multiple clients, from recovering himself to increasing his way of life and others, yeah, that's stuff that should be paid for and benefited from, because now he's at the point where he's basically expert level coach on people with POTS condition. Me, myself, I'm trying to bridge the gap between people that are just starting out and people that are well established with POTS that are doing fine. And I realized that bridge in between the two, it's hard to travel, because once you get better, you forget a lot of the little nuances because you haven't dealt with those in so long. But when you hit the throat thing, that shit gets real quick, don't it?
Oh, dude, that was...
Dude, like,
all
of a sudden you remember all the times that you've ever experienced anything bad. So what I did was, when I got better and I realized I had coffee and I could have coffee, I was like, maybe I can have 2 coffees a day. And then my little brain goes, what happens if we throw everything back in that was bad? Like, what symptoms can we notice that come back in? How's your progression back out of it? How long does that take? Mm-hmm. You know, like, a lot of stuff like that I wanted to know. So essentially, in my true fashion, I threw everything back in there that I could that would screw it up. And it did immediately, just on point. And we're talking everything: limiting hydration, limiting sodium intake, limiting sleep, limiting workouts, having bad food. You would be astonished at how quick everything jumps back into having symptoms. And we're talking a day.
Yeah.
The first day I could notice a symptom.
Yeah, now, when your body's sensitized. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's hard. Like, in the coffee thing, you're going to have, I get up at 4:00 in the morning. So could you imagine having to cut out coffee and you get up at 4:00 in the morning? My coffee is now my 32 ounce of Element. That's my coffee.
Hey, but for a lot of people, sometimes that actually works better than coffee.
Dude, I wake up in the morning dehydrated and never knew it, ever. Yep. And then I would have coffee on top of it. And then I would try and hydrate. And then what happens to your gut when that happens?
Right. Yep. Well, brutal. Dude, yeah, do you do the sparkling one in the morning or when you wake up?
No, I just do my packets, honestly. I
The
throw in my
sparkling,
water.
for some reason, sparkling stuff like really helps me wake up. So like if I'm on a
Yeah.
long drive or something like that, I'll stop and I'll get a liquid death because that carbonation helps me out. That's a little tip for maybe any of you guys. But hey, Nikki McLaughlin, we haven't seen you in a while. Salt is good for the heart. That's right. Alex Zalewski, he's another client of mine. Coffee, that's the one thing I miss every day is coffee. Yeah, man, coffee's hard. Coffee, ever since I gave up drinking alcohol, coffee has like really become my And by the way, I didn't give up drinking alcohol after I was diagnosed with POTS. I just recently gave up drinking alcohol 2 years ago. But coffee has been like my beer because I was big into craft beers and stuff like that. But guys, real quick, I do want to say this, Mick. I know that I'm gonna say it just because I'm not. I want you to benefit from this somehow from today and going forward too. So you guys, I'm going to say this. If you want to help support the channel, you want to help, make it worth Mick's time being on here too, because we're going to do a weekly show together, right? Is that what we're doing?
Yeah, weekly.
We can go about this a couple different ways. You can support the channel by sending money to PayPal. And what I want to do is I want to help I want to help Mick get set up with some stuff like a microphone and, maybe a 4K camera, like camera for like what's it called? A webcam, unless you can do your DJI camera. So if you guys send any money to PayPal, I'm going to make sure that those funds go to him getting set up at his house. And if you join the live stream, or if you join the app, link in description, you do the $50 membership, or if you do one-on-one coaching, I'm going to give him a % of that money too if you do that today. So yeah, or if you come and you say, hey, I watched this live stream specifically, I don't have a way to set up a code yet, but if you tell me that this is the live stream that brought you there, you want to help support Mick or whatever, I'm going to give him some of the money so we can help him get set up.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, you're too humble, so I'm gonna do the work for you.
Things like, look, we're all in the same community,
Mm-hmm.
like, and all you guys out there, like, it's tough, man. It is, because in today's day and age, everybody out there is trying to make money on stuff that they can. In the POTS community, I think the reason that me and Justin are so passionate about this is because we know what it's like to go through it. And when we went through it, there was nobody around.
Yeah.
And nobody knows about it. And it's really difficult to find like a positive avenue to get better. Mm-hmm. And that for me personally was the one thing that did it. And I was like, fine, I want to go out here. I want to help other guys. I want to help other girls deal with this if they can. And I'm no expert, but working with Justin, he's an expert. And so it's nice to be able to kind of blend in both worlds. You know what I mean? From basically a regular person's stance to somebody like Justin who's been around it for a long time and who's gathered a bunch of information and knowledge. Yeah. And for me, like, I couldn't have been happier. I could not have recovered from this as well as I have been recovering in 3 months without his help. So it's nice to be able to help people wherever you can. And I think that's anybody's goal, but life is life and everybody needs to pay bills and live. So that's just kind of part of it. But we're not here to try and money grab on anything that we can or monopolize off the fact that we have this chronic illness and stuff like that. There's other people out there that's got it worse than us. And we know that. We want to see a positive avenue in the community instead of I'm just dying and this is what I'm lived with and this is what I have to deal with and it's never going to get better, because it can get better for most people.
Positive atmosphere, dude, because you are the sum of the 5 people that you hang out with. And so imagine the community grows to like 100 positive people that are only focused on growth. I mean, even just in a personal development sense of the whole thing, right? Like if you have a bunch of people that are motivated to do shit together and you're part of that community, you're going to be way more motivated and ready to like attack life in that way. So you guys, I want you guys to look at that, like me saying like, hey, if you join the app, you pay the $50 membership or whatever, and I give a percentage to Mick, or if you go to the PayPal and you send us like, I don't know, $20, whatever you decide to send, and then I give it to Mick or whatever, I want you to look at it as like an investment into the show, because I want to turn this into more of a production. And so if Mick has better equipment to work with, the quality is going to be better. If he has better equipment to work with, we can invite invite more guests on because it looks more professional. There's nobody doing this in the pot space. And so I'm really excited for what we're doing right now. I'm
Yeah,
really
I am
excited
too.
for like where we can take it. But the fact of the
Yeah.
matter is like for us to get equipped, like I make, decent money, whatever, like, but I can't spend all my funds everywhere. Right. Like I think I have to book 10 flights today or tomorrow for the next 2 months, 3 months. So, we just, if you guys, if you feel like helping Mick, otherwise we're going to figure out other ways to do it. But I think it's a really good strategy. And,
Yeah,
for
and
people,
it's not to say that we aren't going to go buy our own shit, because I'm going to be doing that. I'm working on that.
I mean, yeah, look at my setup. My setup's crazy, right? So
I would really like the community to have a platform where they can go to for advice and what to do and how to get better. And and a lot of this information, that's the kicker, a lot of this information is going to be read in there. So if you go through all of it, it's already there.
yeah,
It's just, this is more of a streamlined approach to it. And if you guys got questions in the app or want to know stuff in the app from me, then shoot it. Just let me know. I'll throw up a video or I'll mention something. The last few weeks I haven't been making videos because I've been intentionally doing everything to tank everything with myself and my condition. I wanted my condition to get bad enough to where I'm like, okay, that scared the crap out of me. Now we'll go back up. And
yeah. I mean, you're also at work too.
Yeah, and I'm going to work. So I'm going to track my way back out of it and what I did each day to adjust and make things better. And then hopefully that'll give kind of a better idea of day to day what I'm doing to adjust and what symptoms I'm having. Because even right now, sitting here, I'm getting the hot and cold flashes from just the temperature issue. So it's not that I don't ever experience symptoms, because lately I have, like, emotional stuff, mental stuff, physical stuff, the trouble swallowing, not being able to eat, stuff like that. Like, I can see my body changing to where it's deconditioning down quickly. And one thing you don't notice is when you don't have enough hydration, you get smaller. Your body just, it doesn't have that fluid in there, and it shrinks. Mm-hmm. And I've noticed that with not having enough hydration and stuff. So, yeah, but 100%. I wanted a better avenue to figure out, like, okay, this is what happened, but this was what I did for my corrective measure.
Cool. Yeah, dude. Jazan goes, I can recommend the Rode NT USB mini microphone. It's very good and also affordable. I have that one and films my videos with it as well. Yeah, so what I'm thinking about is not the SM7B, which is like I have 3 of these microphones, but I'm thinking for you, I really want to hook you up with a Shure. Yeah.
I don't know anything about microphones, so.
Yeah, I want to hook you up with a USB Shure. I don't know. Are you running PC?
Yeah.
So you have USB ports, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I want to somehow find a way to get you a Shure. There's a USB version of it. It's like $300. But it's super worth the money. And then, because this one's $400, but I don't. Yeah, you probably don't have a mixer or anything.
No, my DJI has a microphone, but I got to get it. Yeah. But my DJI, I think I'm going to try and set that up and use that as my camera and see if I can Bluetooth that through the computer.
I think that's what we need to do. We need to get you on a 4K cam, even if that means a webcam that just sits on top of your monitor. But that's only like $70, and then we figure out how to get you a nicer microphone so that the quality comes in real tight. And
yeah, you like my backdrop?
I do.
I'm proud of this shit, man.
I do like that backdrop.
I am.
Hell yeah. Yeah, dude, and that's the thing too. I don't know.
Look at all my element shit. I'm such an element hoe.
You said you were gonna get that tattooed, right?
Dude, I'm telling you, like, look, you guys, I went through this thing. This is why I'm so passionate about element. So
100 euros. What's 100 euros to American, Jazan, while we're talking about this? Go ahead, Mick.
So I went through everything. I went Powerade, Gatorade. I've tried, what's the other one? Liquid IV. I've tried every single one you can try. I've tried ones that you don't even know exist. And the one thing I noticed that I had troubles with Liquid IV was the type of sugar in it. It was sucralose, I think, or is maltodextrin.
Yeah.
Well, what I noticed was I could have honey as a sugar, but I couldn't have sucralose, maltodextrin, those other types of sugars. I could only have stevia.
Mm.
So once I realized that, I started aiming for ones that had stevia in it. And when I looked at Element stuff, it was incredible, and it tastes good. And I was shocked. That was back when they had the Girl Scout mint chocolate one,
Yeah.
but then they had all these different chocolate ones. And then they got rid of those, sadly, because the Girl Scout, the Thin Mint, was a really tasty one.
The Element you're talking about?
Yeah.
Dude, the mint chocolate is
Dude,
so
they had,
freaking good. Did you try the chai one?
yeah, but that Thin Mint, man, I don't even like Thin Mints. But
Yeah.
that Element stuff, like, I don't like sparkling water, but Element sparkling water is the shit.
Yeah.
Like,
It's the bee's knees.
dude,
for
and I
shizzle.
keep my first edition box back over there. See
Yeah.
that?
Yeah. No, I don't
keep that
actually, because I cropped you, so I don't see it.
Oh, okay.
But
Well, it's over
first
there.
edition
But
box.
yeah, but I still kept my first edition cans like this stuff was going to be some collector shit in the future.
It's gonna be worth
And
some
dude,
money.
I wrote him a note. I sent him an email and I said, thank you so much for your product, because it's not often that you find a really well-developed product
Yeah.
that has such an amazing company behind it. And they're 110% the most supportive, most nice, most caring people. And one of my favorite parts of the whole thing was when that guy jumped off and started Element.
Yeah.
It was in a time, in a situation where nobody around him believed or heard what he was saying. And it didn't fucking matter.
Dude.
He's like, I don't give a shit. I know what's there. I'm moving full forward with it. And now look at it.
It's Rob Wolf,
everywhere.
dude.
Everybody's carrying it. It changed the industry. And it's stuff like that that just keeps me buying left and right. And I have a subscription for it, and I love them to death. So shout out to Element for sure.
Shout out
They're
Element.
incredible.
If they would only sponsor the freaking channel, dude. What's it called? One of my friends is an early investor in Element, funny enough. So like he invested like way back when they were looking for like only 15 grand or something. And Rob, the funny thing about Rob Wolf is that he was actually shunned from the CrossFit community. Like he started in CrossFit, and then I don't know, him and I think it was Greg had a disagreement on diet, nutritional strategy and stuff like that. And then that's basically like what got him kicked out. But hey, real quick, I gotta go. So you guys, like the video if you did like it. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. Thumbs up for Mick. Like I said, I'm gonna leave PayPal in the description. So anything that comes through from this, like label it Recovering from POTS Live, and anything that comes through with that label on it, I'm gonna send to Mick so that do you want me to send it to you, or do you want me to order the stuff for you when we get enough money?
Just order it. I don't care,
Okay,
man.
cool.
I'm not really too concerned about the money part.
So whatever. Well, I'm not concerned about making the money part. I'm concerned about getting you gear so that we can do this.
I just feel bad.
Nah, don't feel bad, dude. We like you're hopping on with me, and if you choose to do it with your own stuff too, whatever. But I want to try to help facilitate the ability to get you the equipment in the first place, because not only will it add to you, but it's also going to add to the quality of all the viewers. Right? Think about it. Like they're going to have a better experience with watching the show that we decide to do and all that stuff. So, the last thing that I want to do, that, and then if you guys join, click the link in the description, the coaching app. If you guys join the Positive Pots Forum, the Positive Pots community, you get a workout program, you get nutritional strategy, you get hydration strategy, you get how to tolerate or how to build your heat intolerance better. You get all these different resources. So if you guys join that too and you send me a message, I'm sending you a message first. It comes through automatically. If you send me a message and you hit this label too, I'm going to get Mick. Once I see that you've gotten billed after a week of having it for free, I'm going to send Mick half the money or use that money as well to help purchase his stuff. So, and if you sign up one-on-one coaching, which I think that you should do, I recommend that most people do that. I'm going to use $50 from every single one of those, as long as you tell me that this is the thing that you came from. I'm going to use $50 from that to help set them up too. So anyway, that's what we're going to do with this. And then Mick, what do you got going on tomorrow?
I don't know.
Would you want to hit another one?
Yeah, we can do that.
So I think that maybe we can make this like a regular Sunday thing, or Saturday and Sunday, just regular weekend thing. Obviously, I have all my client calls in the morning, but if you could do something like 1 p.m. 1 p.m. Central Standard Time, I could run that.
Yeah, we can make that work.
All right, cool. So you guys, thanks so much for watching. Huh?
Oh, in the future, like, and what we didn't talk about too is we're going to be having giveaways for different things for like, different supplements or stuff like Element. I want to get some Element out to people that don't have it. And it's just kind of a fun way to show our appreciation of like you guys and everybody that's here. And I'm excited about the future. I'm excited that there's more out there about this now. And all you guys, if you got questions, being a guy going through this, if you're struggling with something, just hit it up.
Mick, what social media platforms do you have, if any?
I haven't made them yet. I have the
Okay.
YouTube. I never put anything on yet.
Well, we're gonna work on Instagram and TikTok and stuff for you, so we can have people actually reach out. But for now, you guys can reach Mick in the community. So if you click that link in the description, you can reach him in there. And then I think tomorrow we should focus on men specifically.
Yeah.
Do that.
Yeah, that works.
Yeah, and then go off. So, in terms of giveaway, let's do one now. Let's do. I know that there's not that many viewers in here right now, but let's say for anyone that joins the app, if you join the app and you text me this again, I'm gonna know, or you DM me what the live video is, recovering from POTS syndrome, with Mick. If you DM me this title, you're gonna be put in a pool by the end of the month. By the end of, what is it, July 20th? So let's say middle of August. I'll go through and look, and then we'll send you a box of Element. We'll
Nice.
not everyone. We're gonna randomize it and then pick one person. We'll send a box of Element, and if there's enough people, shoot, maybe we'll just send the 3-box box.
Nice.
Yeah, we'll do that. All right, cool. So I'm hopping off right now. So we're all gonna have a workout party. All right, let's go. Not an orgy, a workout party. All right, guys, thanks so much for watching. I hope that you did enjoy it. Mick, you got any last words? You got anything else to say?
No, that's it. Just stay strong. Hang in there. Don't give up.
Stick with it. All right, guys.
1% at a time.
1% at a time. We'll be back on stream tomorrow, 1:30 CST, 1:30 p.m. CST. All right, cool. I'm going to put it in my calendar right when we get off. All right, guys. Thanks so much for watching. We'll talk to you guys later. Peace out. Goodbye.